Welcome to Module 5 of the Documentation of Contract Quantities course. We are still investigating the Documentation Guide, or Doc Guide. In Section A, this module will cover evidence of material inspection. What is evidence of material inspection? In a previous module, we discussed inspecting all materials that are incorporated into our IDOT contracts. We must ensure that all materials that are supplied and incorporated meet or exceed the specifications for the particular contract. The evidence of material inspection are the documents we can collect that show the basis for acceptance of a material. It's on an approved list, it came from an approved producer, and so forth. The evidence must be recorded in the quantity book for I-Cores in the column marked Evidence of Material Inspection for what is required to be documented. All of the evidence material inspection must be uploaded into the Materials Integrated System for Test Information and Communication, or MISTIC, when we are using I-Cores. In CMMS, the documentation must be uploaded into the project documents manually. We don't have the module available yet for direct entry of material inspection in CMMS, but it's coming soon. The Project Procedures Guide, or PPG, outlines the requirements for each type of material of what evidence is appropriate and required to be collected and documented for different materials. In your appendix, we've provided a portion of the PPG, particularly Attachment 3, which is the document that shows us what evidence is required. Project Procedures Guide is departmental policy developed by the Bureau of Materials and explains the material inspection requirements. It is IDOT's sampling and testing guide, and it applies to all state and local agency improvement projects. It is part of our construction manual. You have Attachment 3 in Appendix pages 53 through 69 in the Doc Guide. It provides the most common forms of evidence of inspection. They are grouped by material types, not pay items. Contact your district office if you have questions beyond what's in Attachment 3. Section 300 of the PPG outlines the responsibilities of the resident. The resident is to ensure that sampling and testing are in accordance with the PPG, that all materials are inspected and that they are approved, communicates with district materials, ensuring all testing is accomplished, should not put any pay items on a pay estimate for which there is no evidence of material inspection or approval at this time. Force account and agreed unit pay items shall be treated the same as contract pay items. All materials, regardless of what type of work, line item, or extra work, have to be inspected and documented. Section 400 of the PPG outlines responsibilities of the contractor. They are to provide materials that meet or exceed the specifications. They are to provide IDOT with their required evidence prior to incorporating the material into the project. And they are to give IDOT advance notice to have sampling and testing performed for source inspection. Looking at Appendix page 54 in your doc, or not in the Doc Guide, in the appendix, page 54, shows the most common types of evidence of material inspection and their abbreviations, such as LA15. LA stands for lot acceptance. This type of evidence is used when you have a bulk material that is produced in batches or in lots, and IDOT will grab a representative sample of that material, test it, and that lot or batch can be approved. These are forms that are provided to the suppliers to get the material certification from the producers. You might have an Illinois OK stamp. Somebody actually went to this product manufacturing site and approved the products. We might have qualified product lists. We will show you examples of these in a little bit. Mark is a visual mark on that product by a given producer. We might have a ticket or delivery ticket. Could have a bill of lading. For some of our materials that are produced in a production plant, we might have daily plant reports. We might have to perform some tests ourselves. We call that test. We might have the Bureau of Bridges and Structures having certified structural steel. Various different types of evidence that we will collect as we approve and inspect our materials. Looking at the dock guide in section C provides a list of the most common materials that are used on job sites. If you look on page C11, you can see here we have HMA, hot mix asphalt pavement, full depth. The first column in section C is the section of the spec book, and it gives the 3 digits of the section, which correspond to the first 3 digits of our pay item numbers. So this can be a really quick way to look up the evidence material inspection that's required by knowing our pay item numbers, first 3 digits, and I can check them right here in section C. If I go to the last column, it says evidence of material inspection. These are the items that are required if you have HMA pavement full depth. Looking at the PPG attachment 3,
appendix page 61,
shows that the PPG is grouped by material type. So all hot mix asphalt products are under this one heading. There's a column near the middle that says evidence of material inspection. It also shows the same requirement for evidence of material inspection as does section C of the dock guide. So you can see they give the same information just in a different manner. Section C is grouped by spec section. The PPG is grouped by material type. For instance, hot mix asphalt has a DPR plus ticket plus test. That is a daily plant report and ticket and test. All are needed for payment. So if you see a plus sign like these between the different evidence, you need both and or all of them. Here we see some concrete reinforced pipe, and we're looking at the first number up here on the top is typically what? Diameter of our pipe, right? Which diameter? Inside or outside? Inside. This would be the inside diameter of this pipe, or a 24-inch ID pipe. The next one we have, these 4 letters are the mark. For County Materials Corp out of Springfield, the mark is CMCS, and we can show you a list where you can find that. You might have a designation for the class of pipe. This one is C763. Here we have a date. What do you think this date represents? That would be the date that this product was cast. Why are we concerned about what date and when these products were cast, these precast concrete products? Well, we don't want them to be moved after they've had enough time to cure to gain strength so that they don't fall apart and crack while we have them in transit. So I want to make sure that it's been at least, maybe 3 to 7 days, somewhere in that range, before I move these concrete pipes so that they do not crack in transit to our job site. Here's another shot of some other concrete products, and we have our manufacturer's mark. That's our specification, 48-inch diameter, and here's the date it was cast. What is wrong here? What do we see? Cracks, right? Cracks in our concrete reinforced pipe. I can tell it's reinforced pipe. You can see these shadows. That's where our reinforcing spirals are. But these cracks on the outside, we need to visually inspect these precast concrete products. There's more cracks here. Here, if we look up here, there's another really long crack. Would you reject this pipe? How would you know? Well, we will show you in a little bit, in a couple of slides, how you would inspect these concrete pipes and whether they would be rejected or not. From the precast concrete pipe inspection guide, it says we're going to reject this product if the width of the surface cracks in the pipe are 1/100th or 0.01 inches or greater in width, and the length exceeds 12 inches. Again, we will show you on the precast concrete qualified producers list the actual inspection guide for precast concrete pipe. Here is an example of the IDOT index of lists of qualified producers. So here we have the date that it was updated, and in this column is the qualified products list name. Here we're looking at certified precast concrete producers.
Let's go get copies of the qualified products list. Go to our browser and type in IDOT qualified product list. There it is. Get it here. Go down here and click this link for IDOT. It's going to take us to the qualified products list. Right here at the top, you can get the complete index of lists, and each one of these will provide you with all of the qualified products and producers for the various items that are listed here. We can look at such things as precast concrete producers. And here's our list. We can see here's our date of which this list is active, and it tells us the list that it's superseded. We've got all of our producers information and the products that they provide. All right, now that we're on our precast concrete producers list, here we go. We just looked that up on the last portion of this video. We want to find out, how do we know if our producer, let's say it's architectural cast stone, if they're eligible to produce a certain product. Over here in this column, we see the list that says products, and we see there's an A5. A5, what does that mean? Well, at the end of this list, let's scroll all the way down. Whoop, here we go. We get to the product key. I'll zoom in here. Product key. A is structural members. A5 is decorative bridge structural elements, right there. So we know that architectural cast stone, I'll scroll back up here, sorry for the dizzies. Here, whoa, one more, here we go. Architectural cast stone is eligible to produce A5, right down here on the last page. And there we go, decorative bridge structural elements. Let's see, can they do pipe? We have C. C is the section for precast pipe, maybe concrete sewer pipe, maybe a C4. Let's see if we can find that on their product list. Here we are, architectural cast stone. I don't see any products listed with a C. Here I see a C5. They can produce that material, but here, no C, no precast concrete pipe for architectural cast stone.
Here in this slide, we have some dowel bar assemblies where we have our dowel bars and our baskets. These are rejected. Why do we reject these? Well, we have rust on the exposed ends. We have holidays or daylights, rusting coming through our epoxy coating, and these baskets or cages are all rusty. These are not acceptable in our IDOT contract. Here we have an example of the LA15 form. This is a supplier certification from the manufacturer. This form is provided to the supplier by IDOT. It is a multi-copy form that the supplier keeps record of the different products, their lot or batch numbers, and the test ID from IDOT that shows they've been tested and the quantity that has been dispensed at this time. So IDOT can track how much of that lot or batch has been used. Be careful when you get these LA15s as part of evidence of material inspection that the lot or batch numbers on the LA15s match what's on your product. Here we have some product where it is evidence of material inspection is an LA15. I'm checking the lot numbers on the actual product bags that would match my LA15s. Here's an example for you. What material inspections or evidence of material inspections are required for this pay item? The pay item is PCC pavement or Portland cement concrete pavement, 11 inches thick. Here my pay item description ends in a number. Here's my pay item number. How would I know where to go to find the evidence of material inspection for this one? Well, really quickly, you could use the first 3 digits of your pay item number. That would correspond to spec article 420. You could go to section C and look up what's required. The other thing you could do, if you know what type of material, PCC, You could go to the PPG in the appendix and look up what's required for concrete items. So how did you do? What is the evidence material inspection that's required? I think everybody's referenced this quite a bit. Our HMA and PCC items, concrete, we have daily plant reports, DPR, and tickets and test. All right, so we got it. Is that all we need? Well, there's something else you could do. You could go to your spec section and look up what part of the 420 spec would I look in. How about the materials section? Do you remember when we broke down the different parts of a specification and we said it might be important to know what materials are in an entire pay item? Well, here we have a bunch of materials that are in there. And not all of these materials are paid for separately. They may be included in this pay item, but they are different materials, and we have to inspect these materials and gather our evidence that we did inspect them. So what would we need for all of the rest of these materials? We might have dowel bar assemblies, list, insert, reinforcement bars, list, insert, and mark. Maybe there's some joint filler. We've got an LA15. Maybe we have tie bars where we have list, insert, and mark. Hot pour joint sealer, LA15 or Illinois OK or test. Membrane curing compound might be an LA15, Illinois OK or test. And these aren't even all of them, but it just illustrates the point that one pay item may involve multiple materials, which requires a lot of documentation to collect the evidence that we inspected them, that they are approved materials, and that they are appropriate for the pay item we're placing on the project. Here we have an example of the MERC 08 report. This is basically an accounting of what material inspections you have submitted to your district materials office. It is put out on a date range and basically a checkbook register to say, hey, this is the district materials office. We're telling you these are the quantities of materials you have submitted inspection for during the time period quoted on the ticket. Here's an example of the Mystic 16 or Mystic Report 16 from our district personnel. You typically won't see this report until near the end of your project. However, it does include by pay item what types of materials and quantities that you have submitted inspection for. If we look over here for this aggregate material, adjusted quantity was 62 tons. The quantity we've inspected was 1,016. We're looking pretty good. But if you see a negative number in the inspection status, that means the district has not received and recorded any material inspections or evidence of material inspection for those items. Let's talk about the PPG small quantities, section 600. The small quantity provision is used primarily when you have collected your evidence of material inspection for an item and you have this small amount left towards the end of that pay item, and it saves you the hassle of sending in extra material inspections, but it's based on field sampling, testing, or source inspection of these small quantities can be waived by the resident on the basis of this provision. It's not for structure or safety critical items. The maximum quantities listed on that attachment 3 in the PPG, that was our far right column. We'll show you another example. And it is based on either another similar material from an approved producer, a producer or manufacturer certification, not a supplier. Under no circumstances are materials to be used from an unapproved source. Here we go. This is our attachment 3, where we are looking up the evidence of material inspection that's required for our different materials, and it is this far right column that's labeled small quantities per contract. Here we're looking at maybe the pipe products, and let's say I have cast or ductile iron pipe. I go over here and I look, and it says the small quantity is 100 lineal feet. This means I could place approved from an approved source ductile iron pipe up to 100 lineal feet on my contract, and I do not have to submit the evidence and material inspection for it. The case might be, hey, we've put in 120 feet of pipe, I've got an extra 20 feet coming out, and I could waive inspection on the last 20 feet as long as it is coming from an approved source and I have collected previous documentation by the resident engineer. They could waive the requirement for testing or submitting that evidence. I do want to point out this is per contract. It is not per each time you're placing. It is for the entire contract. These are the small quantities.